Welcome back to Lean Design, ENTR 3330. Today we're going to talk about the BlueBook. The BlueBook is a document that provides all the necessary information to commercialize a product. You'll be using the BlueBook in this course. You'll be required to turn in a completed BlueBook as part of your deliverable for the course. And hopefully you'll continue to use this book as a guide as you move forward into the business world. A reminder, for Class 4, you'll be making your first presentation as a team to the class. You'll be presenting your idea, which must be a physical product. You'll have 10 minutes to present. You'll present on 4 slides. First slide will be a problem statement. That's where you'll tell us what the problem is, where, how big, how many people are affected by this problem. I'm okay with images and examples. If it's easier for you to demonstrate the problem, that'd be wonderful. So the first slide is your problem statement. The second slide is your proposed solution. What does it do? How does it work? What makes it unique? What are you doing differently than anybody else in the category to resolve this problem? And how are people going to find it? Where is it going to be sold? How are you going to teach people about this product? That'll be slide 2. In slide 3, I'd like to know how people are resolving this problem today. What are the alternatives? What are the methods people are using to address this problem today? Whether it be an alternative competitive product, or maybe they don't do anything. But slide 3, you'll talk about how people are addressing the problem today. The last slide, slide 4, will be an outline of your team members' names, and then the roles and responsibilities of the people on the team. I'll use this as my document to help me as I go through the grading process over the course of the semester. So make sure that you have good skill sets matched against the roles and responsibilities. This will be critical to the operation of your team. You'll have 10 minutes to present the 4 slides. I'd ask that you bring a hard copy of the 4 slides to class to hand in. I'd also ask that if you could put your presentation on a USB stick rather than downloading it from the cloud for the presentation in class, that would be great. It just saves time. Hey, so you've been assigned a team. I did my best to mix skill sets on the teams. You may or may not know any of the people on your team. You may never meet these people again once you graduate from this class. You certainly won't know their skill sets, what their strengths or weaknesses are. You may not like the way they look. You may not like the way they talk. But this is your team. And you have a whole bunch of you that are going to work together for the next 14 weeks. The one thing you have in common is a single goal. You have a deliverable of a prototype, a completed commercialization plan in the form of a BlueBook, and a presentation to a panel. So this is always a challenge. It's a challenge in this class. I'm sure it's been challenges in your other classes, and frankly it'll be a challenge as you go forward in life, particularly in business, where you'll be working with a number of people, some that you've never met before in your life, and as I said, you probably will never work with again after this project. So you have to figure out how to optimize the strengths and minimize the weaknesses of your team. So I'd like to offer a suggestion. Operationally, teams work best when they have some structure to it. And the way we work with teams is we typically have a project manager, a single person. This person's kind of the general contractor. He or she coordinates the operation of the team. He documents the process. He kind of reports back to the team the progress of the team. Certainly the project manager does not do the work. They're just kind of the liaison, the kind of the point person to collect and document what's being done and what needs to be done. Underneath the project manager, we usually have two separate and distinct groups. We have the product group. These are the folks that are actually going to work on the physical product. And within that group, we have some folks that are going to do some research, both competitive research to understand what's available in the market today, who the key competition is, what their features and benefits are. But also, they will be fielding research with end consumers, with the actual users. So they'll be kind of understanding the market and feeding back to the team. The second person or folks on the team would actually be doing the building. And these people they'll build a prototype. They usually are the folks that actually work with and select the potential suppliers. This group, the prototype folks, will also work with the design team. And in the case of this project for this class, the design team will consist of a person in our class, but also working with the College of Art and Design. So the prototype person will be working very closely with the design folks to actually assemble a product. The design person, again, as I said, will be working with the College of Arts and Sciences to create the branding, the positioning, and also the identity of the product. So that this person will understand the functions and features of the product, but also understand what the product's going to look like, how it's going to feel, how it's going to be positioned in the market. That will be a product team: research, prototype, suppliers, and design. On the business side, we have sales and marketing, a financial person, and then a person responsible for legal. The marketing person will also work in collaboration with the College of Art and Design. They'll actually be the point person with the College of Art and Design. The deliverable from the team at the College of Art and Design to this class will be a series of posters, 3 posters per team, with a branding and positioning recommendation. So they'll work with you to develop a brand and a positioning strategy. When you agree on the branding and positioning strategy, they'll put together a promotional poster that promotes your product and your brand and positioning. In return, your deliverable to the College of Art and Design will be a comprehensive marketing plan to each of the 3 creative folks, using their branding and strategy execution in some kind of marketing program. So this will give you 3 different alternative approaches to launching your product in the market with 3 different looks. So you'll be working with them in collaboration. We'll be spending a lot more time on that. And the financial person, as I mentioned last week, this is not an accounting class, so this will be top line financials, really 2 financial statements with some backup. The first statement is the profit and loss, or the P&L statement, which is essentially units, sales, costs, and expenses to arrive at profit before taxes. And the second financial statement is cash flow, which is cash in versus cash out and final cash position. Those are the 2 financial statements that are required for your final presentation. Supporting those financial statements is a detailed monthly operational expense document for 1 year, 12 months, where you will detail the cost to run the company. So that's it could be office rent, telephones, mobile phones, travel, office supplies, furniture, computers, marketing expenses, selling expenses, travel, hotel, airline tickets, legal fees, marketing spending. So those all have to be detailed out. The expense page, the expense detail, will show up in the appendix, with the bottom line showing up in the financial statements, in the P&L statement, as the operating expenses. And then the last person will work on legal, and legal involves patents, trademarks, and contractual agreements. This person will work closely with the legal clinic to do patent searches to make sure you're free and clear of violating any existing patents, as well as to determine if you can patent your product. You'll also work with them on trademarks to make sure that your branding, positioning is free and clear and there's no violations. So you'll have to be involved with the School of Art and Design with the marketing folks. And then finally, you'll have to have non-disclosure agreements. That's an agreement that is struck between you and any potential supplier. So anybody who's going to do work for you needs to sign an NDA. And then if you hire anybody, then you need to have a formal contract with that supplier. So the legal person will be responsible for that. So that's kind of the team. Project manager with 2 groups under him, or under him or her, the product group and then the business group. And then within those groups, you have specific responsibilities. I've outlined those responsibilities here by role. So the project manager manages timelines, does all the documentation, manages the program to hit the dates, and compiles, be careful of that word, the BlueBook. He or she doesn't do all the work, they simply put it together. And then under the project manager are the research, supply person, design, marketing, financials, legal, and prototype person. I want to remind you that this course is called Lean Design for a reason. It's focused on commercializing products with very few resources, or what we call lean resources. You don't have a lot of people, you don't have a lot of support resources, and you don't have a lot of capital. So this is a pretty intense program within 14 weeks to go from concept to a finished product without a lot of resources. It's a pretty exciting program, but it's a pretty comprehensive, and a lot of work has to happen in a very short period of time. Remind you that the final presentation format, you'll have somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes to present to do your business presentation to the panel. The presentation should consist of about 10 to 12 slides. I'm going to show you 11 that work really well. You do not have to use this exact format, but you do have to cover this exact material in your slides and presentation. On the final day, on the final presentation to the panel, you will come to class with a completed BlueBook. You will come to class with a working prototype, and you'll be ready to give a presentation, pitch your product to the panel. I'll just give you a heads up. On the panel, I typically have a couple retail merchants, people that actually buy and sell these products, and then depending on who or what the products that you select to work on, will determine who I bring in. But it's usually Staples, CVS, TJX, Brookstone, sometimes Best Buy or Walmart. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but usually a couple buyers or merchants from those groups. And then I'll bring in 2 people from the financial world. Usually Easton Bank comes in, a VP of lending for Easton Bank, and I'll try to bring in one of my angel investor friends. And then I'll have a couple of industry experts, usually a patent attorney and a sales representative or a distributor that manages this type of business on a regular basis. So it's a pretty robust panel. Before anybody asks, I have had several projects that have advanced beyond the class into idea. I've had a couple projects that actually have worked with retailers for development. I had one project that an angel investor invested in. And in my last session, which was the spring session, we had a large group from Staples. I think there were 6 merchants who came, and they actually hired one of the students. So it's a pretty exciting event. This is really where you want to shine. So let me just run through the slides. I have 11 slides here. We have the cover slide, which is really a hook. That's what you're going to work with the School of Art and Design on. What is your position, your branding? How are you going to? What's that magical thing that people are going to look and say, "Wow, what's that about?" Second page talks about your team, who you are, what you're about, what your specialties are, why you're on the team. Third is the elevator pitch, which is a 1 or 2 line description of what the problem is you're trying to solve and how you're going to solve it. The next slide is the executive summary, which builds on the elevator pitch. This is a more comprehensive slide. It gets into some of the details of the product itself, the business model, the supply strategy, timing, capital requirements, some of the top line financials. So it's a little bit more comprehensive. The fifth slide is the competitive slide, where we talk about who you're competing, what the alternative solutions are that are currently available, and why you are different. What is the one thing that you do that's really different? Then we get into the design, the creative slide, which talks to the problem and then how you're going to solve it. And this is where we talk about the technical, the features and benefits, and the look and feel of the product. So sometimes it's just illustrations on this page. We talk about how we're going to have it built at a very high level, and the timing. The next page is the summary of quotes that you've received from your potential suppliers, and you will be required to get 3 quotes for every component of your program. So if you are building a device in one factory and you decide to package it in a different factory, and your device requires a software application to operate it, you will ultimately have 9 quotes that you'll have to display and share with the group. So this is an area that takes a fair amount of work to complete, and we'll spend a lot of time in the class working on this and discussing it. So RFQ is pretty comprehensive. There's 3 quotes for every component in the project. Next section is market research. This is where we talk to our customers. By the end of this class, you should have spoken to at least 90, hopefully over 100 potential consumers of your product. We collect, tabulate, and analyze the feedback from the potential customers. And on this particular page, we want to demonstrate our key learnings. Do they like your product? What do they like about it? Will they purchase it? Does it solve the problem? So these are the key points in the key learnings that you found from your research. The last 3 slides are technical slides. The first one is a P&L, a profit and loss statement. Again, this is top line, units, sales, costs, expenses, and PBT, profit before taxes. We do it for 3 years. First year is in detail. It has a backup in the appendix, how you get to the numbers, how you get to your units, how you get to your cost, how you get to your expenses. Years 2 and 3 are extrapolated based on assumptions, growth assumptions. Usually we say 5%, 10% growth year on year. So we display 3 years. First year has the detail, second and third year are extrapolated. The cash flow statement is cash in, cash out. What's the source of your cash, and how are you spending the cash? This is a 12-month worksheet. So you're going to show us at the point you start, where you're going to get your cash, how you're going to increase your cash, typically through sales or investments, and then how you're going to spend your cash. You're going to buy inventory, you have to pay expenses. So this is your cash flow statement for 12 months for the first year. And the last slide is the legal strategy. Legal strategy, you'll cover patents that you're free and clear. If you have any potential opportunities to patent a product, you'll talk about trademarks, so you're free and clear. Can you trademark your product? And then any contractual agreements that are required or in place with potential suppliers. So that's kind of your presentation. That's a format of the presentation for the final panel review. You, again, don't have to use these exact slides, but you need to cover this exact information in the final presentation. The BlueBook is a compilation of real business templates. These are documents that I've accrued over the past 20 some odd years. I use them in my own company. I have my small business, but they also are used in large corporations. So these are real templates. This is a real process that's used to commercialize products. Now the templates can change. You don't have to use my templates, although they're all available on Blackboard for you to use. You can create your own if you're more comfortable with your own design. Templates are simply meant as a guide to make sure that you've accounted for all the information, you've followed the process, and you've completed all the steps. The BlueBook. The BlueBook is a comprehensive guide to commercializing a product, and it starts at the very beginning with a cover sheet, and it goes all the way down to the call to action. What do you do? I'm going to go through those slides now, talk very quickly about what each of them are meant to do, why they're in the book. Templates associated with the corresponding line items are all on Blackboard. They're all available for you to download, as well as the complete BlueBook. If you want to print another copy out, there's a PDF up on Blackboard that you can download. So let's start. The cover sheet and the team. Again, the cover sheet, you're going to work with the folks over at College of Art and Design. That's your branding statement, your positioning. You should incorporate whatever your product is that's going to solve the problem that you're presenting. The second page is your team page. You can have a lot of fun with this. I think this particular one has too many words on it. I like to see images of the folks that are on the team, who they are, what they did on the team, and then something special about the people. What's remarkable about this team? Because you're all different. You all have really cool backgrounds. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting for the panel to understand exactly who you are and why you're presenting to them. The next page is is a decision matrix. How did you get to where you are? What was the path that you took to end up with the ultimate project that you're working on? This happens to be a Pew decision matrix. It's a weighted matrix that helps you quantify individual projects, which ultimately should help you pick the most promising project. This has 5 options in it with 5 attributes. So you weigh the attribute and it tallies up the score, and then you pick the one that scores the best. Attributes are key features of functions. Well, what's special? So, if we were doing windshield wipers that don't clean windows, and I have a better windshield wiper, my first attribute may be ability to clean the windshield, and then I would grade each of the 5 projects for that. Or if you wanted to do differently, you could take the attributes and say you're looking for a product that's inexpensive, attribute 1, that's easy to manufacture is attribute 2, is has a tremendously large market opportunities, attribute 3, that your team can deliver in 14 weeks is attribute 4, and that there's a high probability that you could actually bring to market attribute 5, and then the options could be windshield wipers, diving boards, rollerblades, automobiles, and jet planes. And you just rank the attributes. So it's pretty easy to use. It's a very powerful tool. Again, it's available up on Blackboard. Elevator pitch, I mentioned earlier. It's a 1 to 2 line description of your project. What are you doing? For who? Why do they care? What makes you special? How do you stand out? What's different in your project versus any other project? Where will people get it, and how are they going to learn about you? The bottom line here is an example from a software application, which I don't allow you to do anymore, but this was a group that created an application that was really easy to use, that was low cost to develop, and that actually had an annuity on the back end, so had a really good financial opportunity. So their statement was, we plan to revolutionize the travel industry with a simple, smart connection via a low-cost universal software application that's inexpensive to develop and has extended life expectancy, which will generate exceptional margins. You want to know more? I'd like to know more about this project. It sounds interesting. So the elevator pitch is very short. It's succinct, 1 to 2 lines. You only have a couple seconds to deliver it, but you want it to be interesting, intriguing, and you want the person that you deliver the elevator pitch to say, tell me more. The executive summary builds on the elevator pitch. It's much more comprehensive. This is where we get into the details. What's your company name? What's the industry you're in? What's your product? Who's on the team? What's the background of the company? What's the market that you're addressing? How big is that market? Who are the competitors? How are you going to run the business? What's your distribution? How are you going to get the product from the factory to the customer? What are the risks and opportunities that you see that are known? How risky is it? How big is the opportunity? What's your strategy to build the product, and then some top-line financial statements. Typically, an executive summary is 1 to 2 pages, and it's meant to be a document that you can hand to a potential investor or a potential employee, have them read it, and they'll totally get what you're trying to do. This is my favorite one, the design brief. The design brief is 5 distinct slides. Each slide has 2 sections. The design brief, similar to the executive summary that you can hand off to somebody that understands your business, the design brief is meant to be a document that you could hand off to someone and they could build your product. We use the design brief with the creatives, so when you work with the folks at the College of Art and Design, having a design brief completed before your first meeting will put you light years ahead, because it's very comprehensive in describing what you're trying to do, who you're trying to do it for, and what the competition looks like, so they can kind of figure out, oh, I get it, this is what we'll build. So the first slide talks about the problem on the left side. The right side talks about how you're going to solve it. I'm okay with images and a few bullet points. Windshield wipers that don't clean the windows goes on the left side, and a new super rubberized white plastic windshield wiper that will be guaranteed forever to clean your window goes on the right side. That's pretty clear. I get it. I know what you're trying to do. The second slide talks about functions and then creative styles. Functions is, how does it work? How does this windshield wiper work? What makes it clean the window? How is it going to work? On the right side of the page is, what is it going to look like? Is it going to be Apple-esque, white and rounded edges with soft, smooth finishes, or is it going to be black and edgy with red screws and made out of steel? So the left side talks about how it works, the right side talks about what it looks like, what its personality is. And again, this is really important for the creative folks. The third slide talks about the target customer. On the left side of the page, we talk about the profiles of the customers, demographics, psychographics, and geographics if they're relevant. We try to, and sometimes we personify the slide here by actually creating a person. And so this person lives on Charles Street in Boston, earns $200,000, has a doctorate, loves to read, drives a Mercedes, and hates dirty windows. That's a target. On the right side of the page, we talk about how many of those people are there? How big is the market potential? We call that the total available market, or the TAM. How many people fit that profile that we can address with our solution? The competitive slide, on the left side of the competitive set slide, is a detailed list of who your competition is. What is their name? Where are they sold? What is the price they're sold for? And what are the key features and benefits of that product? You should list as many as you have. On the right side of the page, I like to see illustrations. What do they look like? What do the other guys look like? What do the other products look like? How are they packaged? How are they merchandised? Are they, is it white plastic or is it black plastic? Is it steel versus rubber? I like to see them so we can see what we're up against. Then the last page is a technical page. This is where we talk about patents. On the left side, you list any patent that comes even close, even the same ballpark as your product. You list it out. On the right side, you get as many images of those patents as possible. Product can be patented and never hit the market, so it may not show up as a competitive product, but still be patented. If it shows up as a competitive product, that's a concern. If it's patented, it's a real concern. So this page is really important. It also gives the creative folks some insight into some alternative design thinking. So that's the design brief. It takes a fair amount of work, but once the document's done, it really gives you a nice foundation to build your product on. Marketing strategy. This is your typical marketing strategy document. We talk about our customers, our USP, our selling proposition, what makes us different than the other guys. How are we going to price the product? Where are we going to position it? Um, how are you going to get it to market, from the factory to the actual store? What is your offering? What's the value that we're offering to the consumer? What's the key messaging that we want to deliver? Marketing materials. This is the communication strategy. So are we going to do TV advertising? We're going to do print, billboards, vendor carts. Are we going to be on taxis? What's our strategy? In the marketing materials space, this is where you're gonna have to collaborate with the College of Art and Design, and you are actually going to have to present them with 3 different marketing strategy documents based on the 3 different posters and strategies you receive from them. So you're going to have to do a lot of work in collaboration with them on the marketing materials. This will also be a key part of your discussion on the final presentation. You'll see the second to last line, conversion costs and strategy. That's also known as acquisition cost. Marketing materials plays a big role in the actual cost to acquire new customers. So you need to be really sharp, really crisp in reaching customers effectively, because that's going to directly affect the conversion cost, or the acquisition cost of customers. You should also look at, consider promotion strategies. If you remember last week, I said that promotion has to be successful. A product has to be successful in the first 6 months after launch. Sometimes we'll jumpstart a product. We'll run some kind of special promotion, early bird special, 50% off, or buy one get one free, or large dollar rebates. Those are to jumpstart a product, to get it moving, to get some velocity in the product. Those are called promotions. You also need to have some consideration for your online marketing strategy, social media. How are you going to communicate? How are we going to optimize the internet? And then the last line here is retention. Once you get a customer into the franchise, how are you going to keep them? So there's a cost to get them into the franchise. That's the acquisition cost. And then the second cost is, how do you keep them? How do you get them to buy another product? What is your strategy to keep them in the franchise? Can't just sell them one product and be happy. You need to start thinking about, okay, we're going to have a family of products, and this is what it'll look like, and this is what it's going to cost to get them to stay in our franchise. So that's a basic marketing strategy document. Branding and positioning. Again, this is a big piece of your discussion with the College of Art and Science. I suggest before you meet with the College of Arts and Science that you complete these 2 documents. One is a company name and logo document, and the second is a product name and branding document. A pretty simple documents, but it's going to force you to lay your thoughts out on a piece of paper. On the company name and logo, it's funny because in a lot of classes, you'll have one person who's a little bit creative in your group, and they'll kind of sit down, you start talking, and they'll sketch out a logo, and you say, that's what we want to use. It takes a lot more thinking. Your logo, your brand name and your logo are your identity. It says who you are, and you need to decide, do you want to be edgy? Do you want to be soft and fuzzy? Do you want to look like high tech, or do you want to look like a ordinary household product? A lot of thought goes into the branding and your name, the brand name and the logo. So what I ask here is, you start to sketch out some of your ideas. You start to sketch out, what do you think a couple good names might be, and where did you get those? What caused you to think of those names? Why did you think you wanted to be Bozo Brand? And you write that down. That's the genesis of the name. And then you might want to do a couple quick searches online, translation. Use Google Translator, and just make sure it Bozo doesn't translate into a bad word in another language. Never a good thing to have a brand that doesn't translate well. You can do a quick trademark search. So you have a name that you'd like, you might want to just do a quick trademark availability search, make sure it's available, nobody's already using it. And then you'll see on both of these slides, field research for acceptability. I like to do, at the very least, an acid test. And you remember I said an acid test is 2 or 3 people just to check to make sure it's reasonable and makes sense. And optimally, I like to go out and talk to 20, 30 people and say, hey, this is what we're thinking. What do you think of this brand name? What do you think of this logo? and just get some input, some early input, before I spend a lot of money, a lot of time developing a logo and find out that people look at it and it looks like a turd. So it's really good if you have time and you can do it, to do some field research on it. And then any special considerations. Does your logo, are you going to build your logo into your product? Are there any concerns about the size or the design of the logo or the brand? Do you want a short name, a long name? Do you want a friendly name? Do you want a unique name? So you kind of lay this out in words, and then anything you can do with illustrations. If you've seen a name that looks really cool that you like, Google is kind of cool. So you want to be a Google kind of name. Apple is really interesting. You might want to grab their logos or their names and kind of paste them into the document so that at least the creative can understand what you're trying to do. So that's the company name and logo. But then you also have to think about, what are you going to call the product? Because usually the product is not the same name as the company. Because hopefully you're going to have a line of products. So now you have to go through the same thought process for the product. What are you going to call it? What's it going to look like? What's the personality going to be? If the brand name and the logo is Apple-esque, right? White and rounded corners, smooth, and then you do a product that is real edgy, black and red with square edges, and it's definitely a mismatch. It doesn't work. So you need to think about the synergies between the corporate brand, your company brand, and your product brand and identity. So these are two documents I try to do before I talk to creatives, because it forces me to think about it before I start babbling with them. And it also gives the creative a jump start, because she's already got your thinking when you sit down. So he or she can read it really quick and say, okay, I see where you're going. They may or may not agree with you, but at least you have a starting point. You're not wasting time with them, which, by the way, is money, with them going through the foundation. So this is your branding and positioning statements. Competition. You need to go through a comprehensive review of what's available on the market today. Now there's a couple ways you can do this, and I know the knee-jerk reaction is I'll do a Google search and find everything I can. It's a great way to start, but I also suggest that you actually go to stores, and it's really important for you to physically walk into a store, find what stores your product's being sold in the store, under what name, what the price is, any unique features that are highlighted. But most importantly, what does the product look like on the shelf? How is it merchandised? What's the packaging look like? Is there adjacent messaging around it? Do they have signage? Are they on the top shelf or the bottom shelf? Are they in a dark box or a light box? Do they have a window in the box? You need to understand how the product is merchandised. You might also want to talk to some of the associates, the salespeople, and say, hey, you sell a lot of these, and just get their point of view on it, and what do they like and what do they don't like. Really important exercise. Google's a good place to start. Physically going to a retail store is a much better way to research your competition. Once you've listed out your competition, then you want to start to figure out what your competitive advantage is. This is what I do that nobody else does, and I do it way better than anybody ever could. So I want to start to figure out what those lines are, what those threads that I can build on relative to my competitive advantage. In the course of this, you also want to start trying to figure out what the market size is. How big is this market? Who are the leaders in the category? What brands have what share? And figure out where the opportunity is within the market. Usually, if you enter an existing market, you're going to have to displace another brand. So you're going to have to pick one brand and say, this is what I do better than them, and this is why I can knock them off the shelf. So it's at this point that you need to start really thinking about how to displace competition. What's different about your product that nobody else does that makes you so much better? So that's the competitive slide. Then we want to talk about end user needs. This is an example of a survey document. This is a pretty simple survey. It's 10 questions. You really don't want to have a lot of questions. And this is where we just go out and we survey potential customers, and we ask them, we try to figure out what their age is, what their occupation, and this can be kind of guessed, could be a little bit nebulous. But then you want to get into the product. Are they familiar with the product? Do they have this problem? Does this solve the problem? Are there any problems with the solution? What do you like about the product? What do you not like about the product? What would you expect to pay for the product? Where would you expect to get this product? You just want to collect some information from the end user on alternative solutions, and you can even throw your solution in here and ask them what they think of where you're going with your product. Initially you'll have to do 30. You'll talk to 30. I guess the first thing you should talk to is 2 or 3. Do your acid test and then do 30, and then by the end of the class you should have spoken to at least 90, hopefully over 100 people, and collected their information, tabulated it, and draw some conclusions. So this is an example of an end user survey to try to understand the user needs. Resource requirements. This is an extension of the Gantt chart. Again, you can use whatever format you like, but this is an example where we lay out the scope of work, and then we talk to the technical, the design, and then illustrative. So this is kind of saying who we're going to talk to, what we expect them to deliver for us, what we expect to pay for it, and then any open issues. It just helps us keep track of all of the pieces so that we make sure everything comes together on time and in the best quality that we can. We list any supplier, so any component supplier, so it's not just the product, it's also your creative, College of Art and Design should be listed in here, your legal support should be listed in here, component suppliers, factories, everybody should be somewhere on this page, so you know who you're talking to and what the deliverable is, what the cost is, and any potential issues. This is your resource requirements document. Again, mentioned this earlier, RFQs, requests for quotes. You need 3 quotes for every component of your project. If you're going to have design work done, you should have 3 quotes. If you're considering doing print media, you should have 3 different quotes. So everything you do, you should have 3 of. So the RFQ form, and this one actually works really well. We use this a lot. We submit this to get a detailed estimate from a potential supplier. It asks specifics about the factory, the supplier name, how big they are, where they're located, who the contacts are, how much their sales are, how many people work there, how many technical people they have, and then we provide some information about our product and ask them to quote on it. Now I'm going to give you some tips on this page. This is a sticky one. We should never provide information about our project without first asking the potential supplier to sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. And I just always remind you of Zuckerberg. You don't know where this is going to go. Your project hopefully is going to be wildly successful. If you don't have formal agreements with people not to steal or share your ideas, then there's nothing to stop them from taking your ideas. And when we start to ask for information, quotes on product, we have to obviously provide them with information. So first thing you should do is ask them to sign an NDA. If they won't sign an NDA, which happens a lot, then you have to measure how much information you're willing to share. You need to share as much information as necessary to get the required information back without over informing the third party. So depending upon your relationship, depending on whether they'll sign an NDA, will dictate how much information you provide them. You have to give them enough to have them effectively quote on the product, but you don't want to tell them how it works and how you're going to market it and what the problem is you're solving. You just want to tell them the specifics and have them quote on it. Second thing I want to tell you is your students. And as students, suppliers get these requests all the time, and they're in the business to make money, not help students do projects. So I don't want you to lie, but you might want to figure out creative ways not to tell them that you're students. That might mean using your personal email. It might mean creating a shell company. Um, I think the less that you can indicate that you're a student, the better information, the more information you're going to get. And then the last thing is when you ask for a quote on a product, in my company, we use volumes of 10,000, 20,000, and 50,000. And I know some of you will have projects that you think you can do 5,000 or 600 pieces. Nobody's going to quote on those volumes. So we just kind of, as a rule of thumb, 10, 20, and 50. Even if I think I can do more, I just ask for those three numbers. I ask them to quote on volumes of 10,000, 20,000, and 50,000 over a 12-month period. They're easy numbers to work with, and you can extrapolate either way once you have those numbers. So only provide as much information as necessary. Try to get an NDA. Only provide as much information as necessary for them to give you an effective quote. Avoid telling them that you're a student in a university working on a project, and I suggest you use volumes of 10, 20, and 50,000 units over a 12-month period and get a quote on that. And again, you can extrapolate from that to get to whatever number that you really think you can do. You need 3 quotes for every component of the project. Again, if you're going to build a hard good device in one factory, have it packaged in another factory, and have somebody develop an application software to make it work, then you need effectively 9 quotes. If you're going to have somebody do the creative for you on the packaging, you need 3 quotes on top of that, so that's 12 quotes. So you need 3. Every time you have a component, you need 3 RFQs. Also, a consideration, we build stuff. We build a lot of good stuff here in the U.S. There's no reason why you can't use factories in the United States. There's tons of them. I can make available to you lists of factories. We actually do one session in this course where we talk about supplies and manufacturing. But a consideration, there are different areas in the world, different regions in the world that are better at some things than others. Manufacturing, obviously, in China, actually in Asia now. If you want security products in the Mideast, good technology out of Germany and U.S. So you want to be sensitive to where you go for your products. The world is pretty flat now with the internet, so it's pretty easy to reach these people. You can do some really quick searches on the internet and find out who has the best supply of resources to build your product. We keep a document about it's called a product planning worksheet, where we talk about we call it an event, the component that we're working on, who we talk to, what factory or supplier we talk to, who the actual contact is there, and their telephone number. We write down, we record what they expected deliverable, what will they do for us, what is the scope of work that we're asking them to do. We record the date that we got the information that they think they can deliver it on, and then if they revise the date, which they always do, we keep a record of that, and then we keep a list of any potential concerns. You may find a potential supplier in Saudi Arabia that does some really good coffee products, but when you do some research on them, it's a 4-man shop. That's definitely a concern. You may want to do some electronics over in Asia, and you decide Foxconn looks like a really good factory to work with. They're huge. They probably won't work with you. So you need to record those concerns, because eventually you'll use that to narrow your list of potential suppliers. You just need to be sensitive as to where you're going to have stuff done. Financial statements, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Again, you have 2 required statements for the final presentation, the P&L, profit and loss statement, and then a cash flow statement. I'm showing here also a balance sheet. If you'd like to do a balance sheet, feel free to do it. It's a great exercise. It's not required. What's not shown here is the backup for the expenses. You need a full comprehensive worksheet on the 12 months of operating expenses. That includes salaries, office expenses, travel expenses, marketing expenses, legal expenses, in detail for 12 months, which gets summarized and put into the operating expense line on your P&L. That expense document will go in the appendix. The P&L and the cash flow statement will be in your final presentation. Legal review, again, patents, trademarks, and contractual agreements with potential suppliers. You want to list that you're free and clear on the patents, and don't forget there's a couple, the utility patent and design patents. You have to make sure which ones you're looking at. You're free and clear on those, but then is there any opportunity for you to patent your product? Same on trademarks. You're free and clear, and can you trademark? And then if you are entered into any agreements or plan to enter into any agreements for supply, you need to have a contract for those folks. You should also list here any NDAs that you've executed between yourself and third parties. Last document's call to action document. This is really the Gantt chart done visually, and this just shows a series of stage gates. This needs to get done when this is completed. We do a review, we decide what we're going to do next. It helps you visually track a project. This needs to be in your BlueBook document so that we can see, in the 14 weeks that you worked here, you expect to get this done, and then what happens? Where would you go from there? This particular illustration is for 11 months. You have 14 weeks, so it's compressed. So, but this is a good illustration of what a call to action or a stage gate illustrated document should look like. That's it for this class. In class, we'll go into ideation, second round of ideation, and I will see you in Unit 3.